Hello, Natalie. Okay, rough draft. Good, excellent. Good job moving to Illustrator. Change the layout quite a bit. That's expected, definitely. The sketches are, you'll find that if you progress in your design career, you'll find that there's going to be a greater degree of consistency between your sketches and the final outcome. And it's just a matter of foresight. You become more and more experienced in the sketching process. You'll be able to envision your idea as it would look digitally. Does that make sense? So it's all a matter of familiarity. So changing I know I have design colleagues who can sketch something out, and on their first sketch, it looks almost identical to the final product. So let's say a magazine ad. So I would have a colleague show me a sketch of a magazine ad. I'd look at the final. I'd go, "Wow, that's your first sketch. That's amazing. It looks just like the ad." So it's just like this talent to be able to cultivate your foresight, your vision as you see it mentally on paper. So you're showing it in sketch and transposing that to digital. So in the early stages of your design career, when you're still a student or a young designer, I would expect that there would be a good degree of edits and iterations between the initial sketch stage and the final product stage. So this is very, very common. And I would be surprised if you didn't say that you had made a lot of changes. Let's go ahead, Natalie, and jump right over to the sketch. Now, the first thing I see when I open the digital is this, and I'm going to just, to illustrate, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here. Okay, note that right now the contrast lies in the individual cells for the narrative, but other than that, the rest is lacking, I would say, considerably in contrast. So we don't really see the background shape at all. We don't really see this line that's leading through. We definitely don't see the snowflakes. And that's that's a test that I've been doing for many years in Illustrator or in any digital design, any platform. You just zoom out and it's a great way to check contrast. Contrast being a principal design element. So and we see that this is certainly no exception. We do see a lack of contrast in the background area, the line connecting the narrative, and definitely the snowflakes. Have you thought about taking the background image? See this hill right here? I see you've got these little blue areas and white areas, and I'm wondering if we weren't to take that hill right there and maybe duplicate it in the background here. Since these are kind of random organic shapes anyway, I would think that that would not impede anything, and might even further identify that as a hill once you further define the snowflakes, we'll see kind of that continuation of the hill, of the repetition of that shape, which it will actually increase the harmony of the piece itself. Okay, so food for thought there. All right, so I think it's a good story. I do. I would say watch the spacing of the individual cells, because the viewer is going to see a larger space in between the cells, and they're going to think that that's a greater lapse in time. Okay, so it doesn't work the other way, though. I mean, with the viewers, because if there's a big space between this and this, um, the viewer would say, "Oh, wow, that must be a long lapse in time right there. Maybe it's a few hours, maybe it's more." But when they're close together like this, it doesn't seem like the events are happening one on top of the other. For that reason, I would redistribute these cells so that they're just a little bit more consistent in their space between the cells themselves. Of course, you wouldn't be able to do that on the end, especially if it's curling around. So you would just take a look at the proximity of the individual cells as they lie in the space of the picture plane. Okay, the illustrations I think are good. One of the things I'm really super impressed with is this right here. These little areas right here where you're creating shadows. That's good stuff, and that right there is one. Let's see, here's some on the clothes. I want you to push that further, okay? Because that is a fabulous technique, and that is one that is highly indicative of digital illustration. Now, if we jump in close to your illustrations, we can see things like the bookshelf needs to be refined. I think this little guy right here is too close to the edge there. He could almost possibly be missed. I would put him right here looking out the window or looking at the books, one of the two. Areas like this, okay, that little shape right there. Watch your pen tool. You've got a lot of curves where you should have rounded corner point. Sorry, rounded point transitions instead of these corner points. Okay, so think, it's drag and drop, it's the Bezier curve, it's basic pen tool technique. So you definitely want to address those issues there. Here's one here. That's a corner point. That should be a curve, right? It makes sense when you think about it. This, I think, is the best example right here. But anyways, there's those little shadows on the skin tones. That's good stuff. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. And I do want to say that I think that I would develop a face for this kid. I definitely would. You're going to note right now with just these kind of little lines indicating the facial features, there's not a whole lot of description here. And I realize this is more of a casual, almost cartoon-esque approach. Nonetheless, we still have all of the elements of storytelling, all the elements of good, solid design. And one of those elements is creating a connection between the main story, the main character in the story, and the viewer. And the best way to do that is to establish a face for this kid. Eyes, nose and mouth aren't as important as the eyes, but these little slits for eyes kind of deem him as something that's not an emotive being. Does that make sense? By giving him eyes, you're automatically going to create a connection between the viewer and the main character in the narrative. So I would recommend that. This little thought bubble here, right, it's really difficult to see what's going on there. And again, let's zoom out and see that at a distance, it becomes almost nondescript. Basically, I think the illustrations just could use some fine tuning. I would say the weak points are here because we don't know what that is. Okay, he goes from thinking about sledding to, boy, it's difficult to tell what's going on there. What's he looking at? And then another thing you might consider is that that's his first attempt. I'm guessing that's a closet he's looking at, but watch your perspective on the door and really make it look like a closet. Right now, I think there's a big jump between him looking in the closet and then jumps, next scene, he's immediately at the garage. Can we show him maybe walking away from the closet and walking to the garage, or somehow connecting these two, right? And then the rest, I think, is just a matter of fine-tuning the elements. Okay, I know I've given you a lot to think about here, but it's all good, right? It's just a matter of really just fine-tuning. All right, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to provide further clarification. Thank you very much. Definitely looking forward to seeing this one come to completion. Thanks very much, Natalie.